Good afternoon everyone, we are the Group 5 and our topic for today is working with forms. I, Ilayla M. Monte Alegre, along with Rixia May Revano, Pauline Ann Templanza, John Mark Bien, Pamela Isabel Grace Serrano, Yelena Roses, Kylo Policarpio, and Giovanni Liwanag will be your reporters. So I hope you are all alive, alert, awake, enthusiastic because we will now be starting this discussion. Let's start first with a little bit of an overview of this topic. While you can always enter data directly into your database tables, you might find it easier to use forms instead. So why is that? Well, that is because forms ensures you're entering the right data in the right location and format. This can help keep your database accurate and consistent. So now, hopefully, with this discussion, we can meet all of our 4 goals. Number 1, address the benefits of using forms in a database. Number 2, review examples of different forms and form components. Next, we have learning how to use forms to enter new records. And lastly, we have learning how to view and edit existing ones. So now with that, let's now move on to our next reporter.
Good afternoon everyone, I am Tricia Maybe Rivano and I am your reporter for this topic, which is why use forms. So ang mga possible na tanong natin is bakit nga ba kailangan natin gumamit ng forms? Ano ba yung maitutulong sa atin ng forms kapag ginamit natin ito, di ba? So here it is. Forms also allow users a method of navigating through the system, provide a quick and efficient way to modify and insert records into your databases. Forms show the summary of all the records. So, we are all familiar what form is, right? So, for example, yung natural forms lang na na-encounter natin, especially during the pandemic, lagi natin siyang na-encounter when it comes kapag pupunta tayo in a specific place na nagbibigay sa atin ng forms. Like, for example, yung medical forms na kailangan nating sagutan na may provided na questions, then sasagutan na natin siya. Yun yung example ng forms, or kapag magpapadala tayo ng pera, di ba? May binibigay sa ating forms na kailangan natin sagutan. So, if we are the collector of all the information, of all the data of the customer, madali natin siyang ma-identify because of the forms. And also, we have the Microsoft Access. Forms in Access are like display cases in stores that make it easier to view or get the items that you want. Since forms are objects through which you or other users can add, edit, display the data stored in your Access desktop database, the design of your form is an important aspect. So, kapag ginamit natin yung Microsoft Access, yung sa forms nila, we can easily find the information that we want. We can easily save the informations of the specific persons that we put on the Microsoft Access forms. And also, madali lang natin siya may edit kung may edit tayo na information about sa isang tao, or kunyari information natin, madali natin siyang may edit. And also, kasi kapag yung forms na gagamitin natin through papers, diba? Ang hirap kasi hahanapin pa natin isa-isa. And kapag ginamit natin yung forms in Access, search mo lang siya, ina-navigate mo lang kung ano ba yung kailangan nating information, then tara, ayan na yung information. So, ayan yung isang advantage ng forms in Access. So, I hope you've learned something from me, and thank you so much.
Good afternoon everyone, I am Pauline Ann Templanza and this is my report. My report is all about why do we use forms. The records in these tables included ID numbers of records from other tables. You can't learn much just by glancing at these records because the ID numbers don't tell you much about the data they relate to. Plus, because you have to look at two tables just to view one order, you might have a difficult time even finding the right data. It is easy to see how viewing or entering many records this way could become a difficult and arduous task. The ID numbers of records from other tables are included in the records in these tables. As we can see, there is no way to learn much about these records by just glancing at the ID numbers because they don't reveal much about the data they refer to. In addition, because you must review two tables to view a single order, it is probably that you will have difficulties even locating the proper data, so we can take from this that inputting a huge number of entries in this method could become a time-consuming and difficult operation. As you can see, this record is much easier to understand when viewed in a form. With forms, database designers can control exactly how users are able to interact with the database. This is useful because keeping data consistent and organized is essential for an accurate and powerful database. Using forms, you can carefully control how users interact with the database, making it much easier for users to comprehend the entries when displayed in a form. This is due to the fact that forms contain the same information as above. Furthermore, this is useful because a dependable and successful database depends on the information's consistency and arrangement.
For our next topic, we have working with forms.
Good day everyone. I'm John Marquez Ben and I'm here to discuss the topic working with forms. We already know how the tables store data informations on a database, but most of the time we will be using forms when entering data informations. Forms will give you most friendly interface for entering data and make sure that data goes exactly where it should be. Sometimes data goes on one tables, but some other times it could be on several tables, and forms keep track on that so you don't have to. Also, forms is the easiest and fastest way in storing data informations. And now let's proceed on the process on how to open existing forms. The first step on opening an existing form is open your database, then second locate the navigations, and third find the form you want to open, and lastly double click on the desired forms. After doing those steps, the form will open and it will appear as a tab in the document tab bar, and you can start doing your forms now. That's all for my report. Thank you for listening.
Good afternoon everyone, I am Pamela Isabel Grace M. Serrano and I will be discussing about entering and modifying data. Depending on the database you're using, the forms you work with may include special tools and features that let you perform common tasks with one click of a button. You'll see examples of these tools in the interactives later in this lesson. However, no matter what type of form you're working with, you can follow the same procedures for carrying out certain basic tasks. So, dito sa slide na to, ituturo ko sa inyo kung paano mag-add ng new record. So, kasi merong dalawang way para makapag-add tayo ng record. So, ito yung una. In the records group of the home tab of the ribbon, click the new command. So, ayan. I-click mo lang yung new na may arrow. Tapos, makakapag-add ka na ng record. Tapos, ito pa yung isang way para makapag-add tayo ng record. On the record navigation bar at the bottom of the window, click the new record button. Ayun, yung nakikita natin na may dilaw, na may arrow. Yan. Wait lang, yung may dilaw. Ayun yung i-click natin, makakapag-add na rin tayo ng bagong record. So, may dalawang way para makapag-add. Yung isa, nasa home tab, tapos yung isa naman, nasa navigation bar at the bottom of the window. Okay, yung next naman ay tuturo ko kung paano mahanap yung existing record para ma-view or ma-edit mo. Kasi halimbawa, may gusto kang baguhin. Ganon. So, there are two ways to find and view an existing record using a form. They both use the navigation bar at the bottom of the screen. Ito yung una. To look through records one at a time, click the navigation arrows. So, i-click lang natin yung mga arrows. Yung right arrows na i-click natin, mapupunta tayo sa next record. At kapag yung left arrow naman yung pinindot natin, mapupunta naman tayo dun sa previous one. So, ayun yung unang paraan para ma-view or ma-edit mo yung ni-record mo. Tapos, yung isa naman, to search for a word. Type a word you know is contained in that record in the navigation search bar. So, ayun, gagamit lang tayo ng nagagamit lang tayo ng search bar. Tapos, ayun, halimbawa tulad niyan, Smith. So, mapupunta na tayo dun sa record na nagpa-contain nung may word ni Smith. So, ayun lang. Next, paano naman kung gusto nating mag-save? Paano naman kapag mag-save tayo ng current record? So, the first step is to select the home tab and locate the records group. At kapag dun sa records group naman, click naman natin yung save command. Tapos, yung record na ginawa mo, masasave na siya. Ganun lang kadali. Now you know. Kung kanina gusto mong i-save yung record, ngayon naman gusto mo naman siyang i-delete. So, how to delete the current record? So, select the home tab and locate the records group. So, ganun lang ulit. Katulad ng ginawa mo kanina sa kung paano ka nag-save. Ganun lang din gagawin mo sa kung paano ka mag-delete. Pupunta lang ulit ikaw sa home tab, tapos sa records group. Tapos makikita mo naman agad din yung nakalagay na delete. Babasahin mo naman yun, di ba? Tapos i-click mo lang yung delete command. Kapag naman click mo yun, may lalabas na dialog box. Siyempre, itatanong niya kung sure ka na ba na i-delete mo yon kasi hindi mo na mare-recover yon. So, kung talagang decidido ka na sa decision na gagawin mo, i-click mo lang yung yes. Tapos, ayun na, madidelete na permanently yung ni-record mo. Tapos na po.
Good afternoon everyone, I'm Milena Roses and now we're going to talk about how to use form features. The exact procedure you use for filling out a form will vary depending on the content and design of the form you're using. With the help of Microsoft Access features, users can easily and effectively manage important information by simply storing it conveniently for future reference, reporting, as well as in data analysis. Through using Microsoft features, it gives us an easy way of adding, editing, or changing information where we can also just focus on one record at a time. So, as you can see, we have here the customer form. It indicates the search box, the new record button, and you can also see the customer's information indicated in this form. The name, address, email, and at the bottom part of these are the buttons for saving, deleting, and printing. So one of the features of the Microsoft Access is the drop-down search box. So as you can see, yung number 1 is the search box. At sa gilid nun, you can see the arrow or the drop-down search box. This allows you to search for existing records by simply begin typing and the records that match your search will appear in the drop-down list. Kung may nahanap kang records, click mo lang yung search box, then of course, i-type mo lang kung ano yung gusto mong hanapin at agad namang mag-a-appear yung related or match records in the drop-down list. You can also browse existing records by just clicking the drop-down arrow and scrolling through the list of records. So, makikita mo na doon yung iba't ibang existing records, and once na nakita mo na yung hinahanap mong record ng customer mo, their information will appear in these fields in which you can edit or change it. Next is the new record button. Clicking the New Record button will create a new record with all fields cleared except for fields with a default value. So as you can see, yung number 2, that's the New Record button. And the New Record button, it automatically clears all of the fields so we can type a new customer's information. You can do this editing in table directly, pero mas madali at mabilis if you use forms. Third feature of using Microsoft Access Form is the text box. Most data entry using forms is done with labeled text boxes. So as you can see in the number 3, that's the text box. A text box is the Access equivalent of the blank space where you would write your information on a paper form. To enter data into a text box, just simply click the text box and begin typing. And if you want to add your customer's name and other information of your customer, just click the text box and simply type and enter it. Next feature is the text box with validation rule. If the database designer has created any rules specifying what type of data can be entered into each field, these rules will be reflected in the related forms. So as you can see in the number 4, it indicated the NC. So it only has 2 letters because in these fields or in this form, it has a text box validation rule that limits the type of data that can be entered. So for example, dito sa state, it needs to be a 2-letter postal code only. And if nag-type ka ng pa-sentence, like buong word like New York City, may magpa-pop up sa screen mo na warning. And if you encounter a message or warning like that, you just have to click OK and re-enter the data following the instructions in the dialog box.
Good afternoon everyone, my name is Kyla Policarpio and I am the next reporter. So the next one is the combo box. In order to guarantee the users only enter valid responses, the database designer may use a combo box. A combo box allows you to enter data by choosing from a drop-down list of choices. So ayan dyan sa may presentation, may kita kayo dyan picture na may parang asterisk na color orange, which is ayun yung ating combo box. Ang nakalagay dyan is add to mailing list. So you may use combo box that allows you to enter data by choosing from a drop-down list of choices. So guys, the next one is more form buttons. Form buttons can provide quick and easy way to carry out common tasks instead of using the commands on the ribbon. From left to right, the buttons here allows user to save, delete, and print the current record. Some forms may include more options like calendar buttons, drop-down list, yes, no, checkboxes, forms, subforms, and embedded table. So, nakikita nyo dun sa may picture ulit, meron dyan na asterisk na parang color orange. Ayun yung atin more form buttons which allows you to save, delete, and print the current record. So guys, the next one is new order button. Customers bottom will create a new record with all fields clear. Note that the subform is also totally cleared. So nakita nyo dun ulit sa may asterisk na color orange, nakalagay dyan is new order which allows you to create new record para makapag-start ulit kayo ng new list nyo, such as like sa picture na category, products, quantity, and so on. The next one is the drop-down list. This allows you to select an existing customer from the customers table. Simply begin typing or selecting a name from a drop-down list. This form requires each order to be linked to an existing customer record, which helps you to preserve the integrity of the database. If the customer is not in our database, we can add them with the customer form. So as you can see on the presentation, meron dyan ulit na asterisk na color orange which is yung ating customers table. Then sa dulo niya meron dyan drop down list which is pag i-click mo siya is mag-show up yung list ng mga customers. And pag wala naman dyan yung customers, as said, we can add them with the customers form. So ayun lang guys. Thank you!
Next feature of using forms is calendar button. Calendar button na tutulong ito para makita kung valid ba ang response and information. For example, sa pickup date, pwede mo diyang ilagay kung anong date yung hinahanap mo at makikita mo kung valid pa yung response nila. Next is the yes and no checkboxes. Relating to the example, ito yung pre-order and paid, kung saan kapag kinlik mo ang paid, lalabas yung datas na paid ang customers. It also gives users an easy way para makapag-input. Next feature ay add item to subform. This feature ay pwede kang mag-add ng new data or information, and after mo yun i-input, i-click lang ang save and close. Dito sa last feature, mako-connect mo yung last feature na ginawa mo, which is subform and embedded table, kung saan after mo mag-edit kanina or nag-add ka ng data kanina and information, dito makikita mo na na-add na siya and na-save na. Magiging visible na ito at madali mo makikita yung in-add mong data and information. Ilan po. Thank you.
So that is the end of our discussion. Thank you so much for listening.